Well, everyone's had a comment on that CIA torture report that was released, and now finally the CIA director, John Brennan, breaks his silence, which can only be described as an awkward news conference. To talk all about it is Aaron Katersky, ABC News correspondent. Good morning, Aaron Katersky.
Well, good morning. Awkward only because he has to walk a really fine line, McGraw. He has, on one hand, a boss who decries the entire thing, and on the other hand, he needs to defend the people that work for him. So it did at times make for some awkward sentence structure. But John Brennan was out to defend his agency against the Senate Intelligence Committee report, and he said that the officers, for the most part, were doing what they were asked to do in service of the nation. He reminded Americans how fearful we all were of second and third wave attacks after 9/11, and he said the CIA was looked to for answers. And at the same time, he himself said, some of what they did was abhorrent.
Yeah, he did say that they did make mistakes, and he said the bulk of what the CIA has done has been positive. But you bring up a great point, or he does at least, in which he says these rank and file CIA people who were doing the torturing were doing it under orders of their superiors.
Yeah, and he said that the tactics were legal, which the Senate Intelligence Committee took issue with. But he said, the president came to the CIA and said, "This is what you're going to do." And so, he readily admitted the CIA had no experience doing some of this stuff, but they did it anyway.
Yeah. Did he go into detail? Did he disagree with anything in the report? Did he talk any facts?
Well, he disagreed with the premise that the torture was useless. He said it did produce useful information. What he was, but it was a little confusing because on one hand he said it produced useful information, but whether that information could have been gotten another way, he said, is unknowable.
Yeah. So but the report clearly states that they did not get any useful information.
The report says that basically torture didn't work.
Right.
In all 20 cases that the Intelligence Committee investigators looked at, none of the information that the CIA gained from the torture tactics proved to be useful or even accurate. And what information was useful and accurate had been obtained either before the enhanced interrogation techniques were deployed or, just some other way.
Yeah. And yet he says that he disagrees with that we did get some useful information.
He says there was useful information. He says some information from detainees that were tortured was used in the Bin Laden raid, which is sort of the signature achievement of the CIA.
Right.
But he declined to link the two. So again, it's that part of that fine line.
Right.
He said yes, because I don't think the CIA director, even one who calls the tactics abhorrent, can come out and say this didn't work.
Right.
And so he says useful information was obtained, but whether you can link that specifically to the enhanced interrogation techniques, he said, is unknowable.
What I find interesting is that in the report, they didn't report back and tell President Bush what was going on until 2006. Did he talk about how they just didn't pass it up the chain?
Well, he talked a little bit about falling short of what he called the CIA standards for reporting and disclosure. That's hardly a full-throated admission, but it is what it is.
Right.
And so he talked a little bit about that, but he also made clear that the Justice Department and the President had signed off, and so it wasn't as if he was going to just sit back and take it. He said that, look, this is what we were asked to do in service of the nation, so we are not going to just, we're not going to tell the President no. So he tried to suggest, I think, that people may have known more than they've let on.
Yeah, and it's a very difficult situation, and hindsight's always 20/20. What about going forward? Was he asked any questions or talked about any torture going on now, or they plan on torturing anybody in the future?
No, I mean the whole program has been outlawed and has been outlawed for several years now. So he says the CIA isn't doing this anymore, and therefore he hopes we can all just move on. And yet at the same time he says it's been difficult with some allies because they had preferred that all this would remain covert, and with enemies he said that they can use this as further propaganda, and that's been a big concern. But Brennan also said that look, there's a there's a lot of room left for debate. Like he said, he would leave it to others to decide whether waterboarding constituted torture. And at the same time, he said there is a line that should not be crossed. So he seemed to indicate that whatever the CIA does in the future, it would be in accordance with the Army Field Manual, which has become sort of the standard for interrogation.
Aaron Katersky, great job as always. ABC News correspondent. Have a good day, Aaron.
Thanks, McGraw.
7:58 here, Big 550 KTRS. St. Louis Closet Company.